Takeaways are great, right? At least in moderation. If you've had a busy week, or you aren't feeling up to cooking, or perhaps you haven't managed to do your weekly shop yet, you can, as long as you live within easy reach of a town or city, find a few different places where you can go and pick up food cooked by someone else to enjoy. And unless you live in a really small town or village, I mean, I'm a good 10 to 12 miles away from the majority of takeaways, the chances are that your choice of food options will be pretty wide and varied. Want a Mexican? Easy. Curry? Just down the road. Ethiopian? 6 miles away. Korean? There's a great little place that does delivery within the most sublime bibimbap bowls. Proper fish and chips? Yeah. Even here in Portland, there's James, the Scottish proprietor from the Frying Scotsman in Beaverton. He does the deep-fried Mars bar thing, although I've never actually had one because I don't see the appeal. My point is that when it comes to food, if you're wanting to pay someone else to cook, you expect a lot of choice. Imagine what it would be like if your only choice was between a half-dozen burger bars that all did a sorry take on a Big Mac, complete with more salt than you'd see in the Dead Sea. So why then, in all that's sane and good, are automakers hell-bent on offering us just 1 or 2 items from the menu of possible electric automobiles? Because, earlier this week, GM made an announcement that, to all intents and purposes, just removed a popular menu item and replaced it with a take on the very same thing that other automakers are churning out: electric SUVs. Today, we'll take a look at the death of the electric hatchback in North America, point out why it's a bad thing for buyers and the overall industry, and explain why this trend could be one of the biggest blows to getting everyone switched over to electric. Let's get stuck in. Oh, and bring your own cutlery. Back at the start of the modern electric vehicle age, the only electric cars you could buy were compact or mid-sized hatchbacks and sedans. The Chevrolet Volt, Nissan Leaf and Mitsubishi i-MiEV were all modest-sized electric vehicles with what we'd now call short ranges. They were followed to the market by the Tesla Model S, which offered something they couldn't: range and performance. Although that did come at a premium. And in the years since those vehicles launched, we saw a few other compact and mid-sized EVs come to market. I'm not going to list them all here, but cars like the Ford Focus EV, Hyundai Ioniq EV, and Mini Cooper SE come to mind, while in Europe things really took off with the Zoe EV, Volkswagen e-Golf, and for those with more modest-sized requirements, the tiny but fun Twizy and Volkswagen e-Up. Again, there were other models, but I'm not going to list them all here. The one thing that most of those models enjoyed? A hatchback design, where you had a moderately sized rear hatch area to store things that you'd regularly need to carry, like your weekly shop, the aforementioned takeaway, or perhaps enough luggage for a crafty weekend away. Then, for larger items, you could just fold down the rear seats and be on your way with a far more generously sized load bay for long or large items. At the same time, though, they were small enough to park in busy city parking spaces quickly and easily. They were easy to park in a small garage. And most importantly, they were cheap to own, with modest-sized wheels, modest-sized battery packs, and pretty good energy efficiencies between 3 and 5 miles per kilowatt-hour in the real world. If you know how to drive them, that was. But while Europe has continued to introduce a healthy number of small and mid-sized electric cars with some truly impressive price points and specs, the MG4, Volkswagen ID3, and soon-to-launch BYD Dolphin come to mind, US automakers, and thus the entirety of the North American automotive market, have slowly been killing off hatchback EVs. Earlier this week, GM announced the imminent death of the Bolt EV and Bolt EUV, its twin mark of compact all-electric hatches. Both models will end production at the end of this year, with the Orin production facility where they're made transitioning to produce an electric pickup truck instead. And, unless Nissan confirms the Leaf will end production this year, something I'm half expecting, it will leave the Nissan Leaf as the only sub-$35,000 electric hatchback you can buy. Now, I know that many watching this will say, what's the big deal? A Tesla Model 3 is now available for under $40,000 and the Model Y isn't that much more. But this isn't just about quote-unquote affordability. It's about much more, including vehicle size, efficiency, and resource use. I do want to acknowledge that in this case, the one of the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y, now available for under $40,000 and $47,000 respectively, which puts them at less than the quote-unquote average price of a new car, it's worth noting that average is still out of the price range of many customers. Take one look at the subprime rise of auto loans to get what I'm talking about. Also, not everyone wants to buy a Tesla these days, because at a current starting price of $26,000, the entry-level Bolt EV is the most affordable electric car you can buy today. It might not be the best car to road trip in due to its dispiriting 55 kilowatt maximum charge rate, but with an EPA-approved 250-mile range and enough room for child seats, it's a great first-time EV for anyone wanting to replace an aging gasoline car. That sticker price, if you're eligible for state and federal incentives, can mean that the Bolt EV and EUV are almost as affordable to buy as the cheapest gasoline cars on the market today. I mean, you are generally within spitting distance of the entry-level Nissan Versa. Of course, it'd be disingenuous if I didn't note here that GM is planning on ending production of the Bolt and Bolt EUV because it's about to launch two new electric models, the Chevrolet Blazer EV and Chevrolet Equinox EV. And because the Equinox is closer in size to the Bolt EV and Bolt EUV, let's focus there. The Equinox EV is promised to come to market with a $30,000 price tag, which many will look at and say, well, that's within spitting distance of the Bolt EV starting price. But if you're eager to stay with GM and you decide to finance that difference in a 60-month loan, the difference could be as much as $100 extra a month in finance payments. In an age where the cost of doing the weekly grocery shop is rising more quickly than your pay packet, that's a lot of money. Moreover, while GM's newest models will use the Ultium platform, which will promise faster charging and next-generation batteries that GM claims will have better performance and stability, the end result to customers when it comes to actual range won't be much different. The larger a car, the more energy you need to push it along. That's true of internal combustion or electric. Sure, larger means you can carry more stuff and you might feel safer on the road. Something we've argued on this channel in the past isn't necessarily always true, but you'll be spending more energy to push yourself and your clan along. And while GM may surprise us with a smaller battery pack in the Equinox EV than, say, the Bolt and Bolt EUV have, because Ultium's platform lists 50 kilowatt hours as its smallest capacity pack, most likely destined for China, by the way, I'm going out on a limb here to suggest that we're going to see a larger battery pack used in the Equinox EV to get the same 250-mile range that the Bolt EV currently manages. Why? Basic physics. The Equinox EV is 27 inches longer than the Bolt EV, 20 inches longer than the Bolt EUV. It is 5 inches wider than both and 1 inch taller, and it rolls on wheels that are larger. Larger wheels means increased rolling resistance, and unless GM's engineers have made some dramatic changes to the aerodynamic qualities of the Equinox over the Bolt EV, it will use more energy. More energy means that automakers are likely to use ever larger battery packs to give customers the same range, and that in turn means more, not less, resources are required for each vehicle made. In a world where we have a finite supply of raw materials, that is a concerning trend. More energy consumed also means it's more costly to fill up. Larger tyres are traditionally more expensive to buy than smaller ones. And of course, while you will be able to fast charge more quickly, the majority of people buying an EV don't need to fast charge all that often. That is, as long as we all work hard to make level 2 charging more equitable, reliable and accessible. Because if you are living in rented accommodation with no access to dedicated overnight charging, you're already at a major disadvantage to homeowners in the burbs with 3-car garages and 200 amp electricity supplies. That size also has another massive problem after energy efficiency: safety. While large cars might make you feel safer as a driver, they are a massive problem on our roads, especially in urban and suburban areas. The number of pedestrians being killed by cars is rising as the number of SUVs on our roads rise, and larger vehicles with higher seating positions and longer hoods are more likely to have massive blind spots for the driver when compared to small compact hatches with snub noses. I, of course, could go on. Larger vehicles make it harder for other road users. Cyclists get less space when a driver in a large SUV passes them when compared to a small hatchback. Larger vehicles are more likely to need to stop and wait for a gap if they need to overtake a stationary delivery vehicle. And, of course, larger vehicles are harder to park. Trust me, I know. I drive a Ford F-150 Lightning, which is single-handedly the largest vehicle I've ever owned and also the most difficult to park. Meanwhile, my wife's Chevrolet Bolt EV is something that is so easy to park, we rarely have to think about if it will fit in a space or not. It's also the reason we still own the Bolt, along with it being, on average, about twice as efficient to drive as the F-150 Lightning. As an industry, the US is pushing people towards SUVs because it's more profitable and easier to hit safety requirements. And so they've marketed them really hard and made them incredibly popular. But that's also because it's what automakers are selling. Take a look at the amount of airtime that Nissan and Chevrolet have devoted to advertising their respective electric hatchbacks in the last 5 years on your local television channels, and compare it to the amount of money that they've spent advertising SUVs and pickups. It's not even close. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. While there are still people who prefer smaller hatchbacks, many of you are probably watching this right now, automakers see a demand for SUVs because they've conditioned their customers to want them. And while it might be cheaper to build smaller, more efficient electric hatchbacks for the majority of customers, automakers have pushed SUVs so hard that many, if not most, consumers won't look at an EV unless it's the size of a small British village. So, what's the solution? Honestly, right now, we here in North America metaphorically have our hands tied. Without changes to US import rules for cars, like a relaxation of the chicken tax, and changes to crash test standards to allow cars to be imported that meet tough overseas crash test standards like Euro NCAP, we're going to continue to see large SUVs and pickups become the norm. Larger means more expensive, and that's going to push EVs out of the price range of more citizens. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Without more affordable compact models like we see in Europe, many Americans can't afford to go electric. And as mandates either outright ban or phase out the use of internal combustion engine vehicles, those who can't afford to go electric will be faced with two choices: continue to use increasingly old, polluting internal combustion engine cars that break down and cost more and more to fix, or wait for trickle-down EVs on the used car market that potentially will no longer be supported by automakers who originally made them. GM sent an email to its customers earlier this week confirming its commitment to supporting both the Bolt EV and Bolt EUV. But if other automakers are anything to go by, and indeed the problems Michael had getting his Chevrolet Volt repaired just 10 years after it rolled off the production line, I suspect it won't be long before the Bolt EV and Bolt EUV become cars that the majority of used car customers will want or need to steer clear of. And that's sad because while we personally weren't fans of the Bolt EUV, it felt underpowered compared to the original Bolt EV, we think they're both solid models that have a long life ahead of them for most people who own them. At least, we hope they will. And on that note, we're done with today's video. If you have comments, drop us a polite note in the Discord chat room, on Mastodon, or if you are a Patreon supporter in the comments there. If you want more, subscribe, hit the bell, and follow the links to regularly support us with a YouTube membership or Patreon subscription. You'll also find links to our Ko-fi, Bitcoin and Swag store, as well as that aforementioned Mastodon server. Scrolling on my right is the list of amazing charged up supporters, and shout outs go out to our V to G supporters. They are Pedro Moura Pinheiro, Alan Tupper, Andrew Martin, Bennett Elder, Brophy Wolf, Chris Maxwell, Cyprian Laplace, Dan Blair, Gordon C, Hay Esker, John Trammell, Kyle Fox, Mark Eggleton, Peter Dillinger, Regine Fellows, Sean Tucker, Stefan Fremgen, Stephen Williams, Taslet in the Gong, Paul Bricknell, Tony Moss, Kyle Hodgson, Chris Asentar, Denny Hyde, Lance Schall, Linda Irish, Mike Weeder and Paul Nelson. And finally, big thanks to our off-grid supporters, Paul Conway, Kevin Burrowbridge, Stephen O'Donoghue, Jim Burness, Robert Flannery, Aaron Hahn, Ellery Hensley, Rory Litwin, JP Fagerback, Dave Kitchen, Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, Chris and Michael Johnson, Clay Witt, CPU Freak 101, Eric Knack, Joe Bresney, Joe Hughes, John Henderson, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobanek, Nigel S, Reggie Watts, Will Graylin, and of course, Ian. Don't forget that we make videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday on the main channel, plus Sunday on Take 2. And with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon. And as always, keep evolving. It's been a while, but it's time for another classic Mac update. I know a lot of you have been asking questions and sending us emails, and I'm going to admit that I've lost some of them, including some of you who had offered me some G4 cubes. I would very much like to take you up on your offer, so if you're watching this and you wondered why I didn't respond, it's because I, in my jet-lagged slate, may have deleted some emails. Yeah, I really shouldn't read emails when I'm jet lagged from traveling. I am very, very sorry, but I would love for you to get back in touch because it would be really cool. As I've covered in the past, this is one of my collection. It's got a fantastic new monitor. I'll get the G4 Cube out very soon because now I've got an appropriate monitor to display with it. Although I need to just figure out why the power button keeps pressing itself. The G4 Cube, which is not this, it's a different machine, has a touch button, a touch sensor on it that allows you to turn the machine on, and it's broken, so it randomly turns itself off. Whoops.